Hey, what's up guys? We are back with another unboxing and review of a model kit. This is yet another kit sent to me by Gundamit, aka Shozy Store. So big thank you once again for supporting the channel and providing this for me to review. If you want to get one for yourself, go ahead and check out the link down below in the description. And first of all, I am wearing gloves today because I have a pretty nasty cut on my finger, so I don't really want that showing up on camera. So today we are going to unbox this kit, build it up, and do a full review on it. Without further ado, let's check it out. First things first, got some Shozy Store goodies, little Transformer decals, and a customer service card. I'm glad I didn't just cut super deep into the box. Gotta love the corner protectors. As you can see, this is another model kit from the Legend of Star General series. That's the same one that the aObing came from. This knife really isn't the best unboxing knife. Ooh, and we opened it up, the perfect orientation. Wow, that artwork looks pretty good. Let me try to get it so the light's not reflecting on it. Look at that. I will say I have already seen some preview pictures of this model kit, and it will likely need a good amount of panel lining before it gets to a presentable stage. So I might go ahead and do that before we get to the final review. Once again, this is a sample product, so there might be a few changes if you end up getting this yourself, but let's go ahead and see what they got for us. So look at these effect parts. They have this tri-color going on with them. We've got purple, blue, and like a teal. And that's consistent with all of the effect parts right here. These are likely going to be for the wings and the weapons of this kit. Let's go ahead and get the manual out of the way as well. I love the design of the aObing, how it's very spiky and has like an organic look. All right, so we have, it looks like just some random armor parts and frame parts. We won't really be able to tell what that is until it's fully built. Let's take a look at the parts that actually look pretty interesting. So here we have some sort of like a copper color plating over these parts. Some gray parts. This looks like it's definitely for a backpack, as well as maybe for the face right here. Yeah, I can see some eye holes on that part. We've got some gold painted parts. These look pretty nice. I think we're gonna see a lot of the same stuff that we saw in the aObing, where there's some pre-painted details, which are completely welcome in my opinion. Speaking of which, here we go. We've got some gray painted details on this lighter gray plastic. We've got some more armor parts, and it looks like another copper painted part for the back. This looks pretty familiar. I think we had a similar piece to this on the aObing. More parts, and here we have some clear red and clear, like a limeish green. Oh, these aren't clear. Well, the green is clear, but the red, actually like a candy coated silver. If you look on the back side of this runner, you'll see that it's silver. So on the front side, it's got that candy coat over it. It kind of gives it a more deeper sheen to it. It gives it a little more depth to it as well. We've got some more metallic red and gold parts. These definitely give off some Iron Man vibes. Let me see if I can find some more painted parts. Here we go. These look like some skirt armor parts with gold accents painted on them. The chest is white with some gray accents around the chest vents right there. Here we have our stand, of course. Got some more painted parts, gold over gray as well as light gray over gray. We're seeing the same thing on these parts. Here's the chest vents and some more dark gray over light gray. More painted parts. Got some more Iron Man red going on. Ooh, here we go. We got some gold over white plastic. And the plastic does have this dull sheen to them. The sort of same finish that I liked on the aObing as well as the Zero Gravity Judge. And here we go. This is an interesting looking yellow. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's sort of like a mustard yellow. It's not glossy at all. It's not very dull, but like a satiny dull. And it gives it the appearance that it's already been painted yellow. Like it doesn't look as plasticky as Bandai's yellow plastic. So that is promising. All right, nothing else of interest here. Oh, if you look at these parts, these are probably some internal frame parts, but they have like a sort of maroon tint to them. They're like a dark gray with a maroon tint. And we have our fixed position hands over here, as well as some, I think these are just some thumbs. Yeah, they're just thumbs. I don't think we get any moving hands. So we'll probably showcase those ones as well. And lastly, we have the internal frame. I wish it was pre-built though. Not like it's gonna be a problem, but here we go. We have all the parts for it in this plastic roll. Seems simple enough to put together. All right, and lastly, let's just check out the manual to see if there's anything interesting inside. Sadly, we don't get a comic this time around that we saw with the Ao Bing, but I guess that was just sort of a first foray into model kit sort of thing. All right, so if you didn't know anything about this kit does have a transformation, so it's gonna have a regular mode and a bird mode. Both modes utilize those effect parts pretty well, and as you can see, there are going to be these whip-like tails or whip-like whips, depending on if you equip them as whips. But we have a step 1, 2, and 3 of what the model kit will look like. Very reminiscent of the Perfect Grade Unleashed, actually, where we have the frame, then we have building onto the internal frame, and we have the finished product. All right, the instructions, pretty standard. Then we have the weapons. So the weapons, it looks like we're including a sword, a whip, and some sort of, I don't know what that weapon would be called, but it's like a shield dagger kind of thing with beam effects coming out of it. Here we have the backpack with the wings as well as the tail whips attached to it. It looks like we're going to have separate parts for the head, so there's a good chance this is going to be a parts formation, not a complete transformation. And there are our transforming instructions. Looks like it's going to have a little bit of inspiration from the wing in that we have to flip the legs around. Oh, these are kind of some crazy positions. All right, well, I'm sure we'll see enough of that when we get to it. And also here on the back, pretty cool, we actually get a paint chart. I don't know if we have that on the Ao Bing. Yeah, the Ao Bing manual didn't have a paint chart like this, so that's pretty cool that they decided to add it in. This kit looks pretty promising so far, so I'm gonna go ahead and build it up. Then we'll showcase it a little bit and we'll do the full review on it. Hopefully I won't need gloves on by the end of it. I'm back with the finished kit, and I think it's safe to say if you enjoyed the Ao Bing, then you'll definitely enjoy the Cao Ren. I'm not sure if the folks at Motor Nuclear were watching reviews of the Ao Bing, maybe they even watched my review of it, but pretty much everything about the Cao Ren is an improved version of the Ao Bing in a way. The joints are much smoother to move, they're easy to move. Throughout the entire process of filming the videos for this, I don't think any of the parts really fell off unless I was holding it kind of improperly. But even then, it probably only happened maybe once or twice. I was very surprised at how sturdy these side skirts were. For some reason, I just felt like that they might fall off or something while maneuvering it into different positions as well as the transformation. I think the design of the kit is still very nice. Much like the Ao Bing, it has a very Oriental inspired design with plenty of spikes, curves, and much more of a super robot design as opposed to a traditional mecha. Once again, they do a great job at hiding all the nub marks. Pretty much anywhere that a nub mark would show, the part is undergated, so you don't have to worry about the nub marks. That even includes all of the metallic pieces. Now there are a few areas on the kit where you can't really avoid the nub marks that remain after cutting the coated pieces. For example, right here on the antenna, there are 2 spots, which you can see were cut off from the runner. But aside from that, you don't really see that on any of the other metallic parts on the kit. All of the metal parts are very tastefully placed here on the back of the leg and even at the sides of the knee. You can see them peeking through there, as well as the elbow joints right here, which are going to be the most exposed areas of the kit, so it makes sense that the metal parts would be showing there. Once again, I also had no issues with the pre-painted portions of the kit. I think the good thing about the pre-painted portions is that it gives a degree of color separation while still making the build relatively easy and quick, because instead of cutting out 2 parts for one part, you're just cutting out 1 part. There is one weird color choice on this kit, and if you haven't noticed it, it's on the back of the head. It's very strange because this is like the only part on the kit that has this blue color. Everything else is a grayscale with red and gold accents, as well as a little bit of orange here on the antennas. There's also this blue jewel right here on the chest, but it's like a metallic blue. It's not going to be the same as the back of the head. But the parts that do match the head are the accessories, so let's go over those. Here is the sword design. It's nothing mind-blowing, but it's definitely far from normal. It's got a red gem with a metallic backing underneath in there, so it gives it a little bit of depth. This middle darker gray area is all one piece with the lighter gray painted on. One thing I did notice, if you can see it here, is there is a little splash of red paint that shouldn't be there, but I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could probably either scrape it off or mask it off and then use some thinner to remove it. I'm not too concerned about it at the moment, just because it is so small and it's still kind of hard to see even up close. With the shield, we have a little more basic design. Surprisingly, nothing moves on the shield. It's all a solid piece, but we do have some nice accents and coloring on it to make it look a little more exciting at least. And on the back we have a connector for an effect part, as well as a connection where it'll attach to the arm. To attach it to the arm, it's pretty simple. We take off this arm guard, which reveals this slot right here, and we can pop the peg into there and it stays pretty secure. We also have the ability to swivel it a little bit. The arm itself will also bend up and down. Not sure why you would pose the shield this way, but it's possible if you'd like to. And so now let's go to the effect parts for the accessories. We have these two pretty large effect parts. They're identical, however, we can use them in two different areas. The first one is going to be on the shield right here at that effects parts connector. We can pop it in right there, and we have a sort of shield saber. The second area is going to be on the greatsword, where we can remove the original blade, leaving a tab where we can attach the effect part. Part of me really prefers the look of the original blade, especially since the effect part doesn't go past the width of the original blade in some areas. But that's definitely personal preference, and it's available for you if you'd like it. Along with the closed fist that I have on display on the kit right now, we also get the same 5 sets of holding hands that we saw with the aObing. We have a wide open hand with extended thumb, we have a partially closed hand, an even more partially closed hand, a trigger finger hand with an angled wrist joint right there, and a closed grip hand with an angled wrist joint. As usual, there is a tab in the hand that'll connect to a slot on the weapon. The handle can rotate to make the slot go whichever angle you need it to. However, the pommel will follow the rotation of the handle, so keep that in mind. Along with the swords, we also get these two handles, which are actually handles for the whips for the kit. Along with the swords, we also get these two handles, which are actually handles for another weapon on the kit. We can pull the tails off of the backpack, and they become whips when attached to the handles. These segments are connected with basic joints. They can pivot one direction and rotate along the connection to the next joint. And if you really wanted to, you can actually use all of the segments in a line to make just one really long whip. And along with those two tails, of course, we have the third tail and some additional joints that came with the kit. There is a fourth tail end, however, there aren't enough green jewels to fill in the spots on this one. One thing I think is important to notice is that in the instructions, when you're building the whip tails, there's a spot right here that says you're building 19 of these connections. But then right down here, it says we need 11 of them twice. I don't know if this is a typo, but this spot should really say 22. That way we have 11 for each. But in the end, you're probably gonna end up building all of them anyways. I think there's a total of, oh, there's 22 total. So it's definitely not something that's gonna affect the quality of the kit, but it might be just that little bit confusing when you're assembling everything. And so when we take the handles off, that brings us to our next accessory, which is going to be the backpack. Now this thing is pretty large, a lot larger than the aObing's backpack because it was just a connector for the dragon. But this thing's pretty cool. Let's check it out fully flourished first. So right here on the bottom, we have the 3 connection ports for the tail whips. The way you're supposed to connect it is the 2 outside whips have 6 segments, and the middle joint should have 7 segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that'll bring you to a grand total of 19, which is what we see in the manual. So once we attach those on here, it definitely gives a unicorn phoenix vibe. The only thing is, until you spend a decent amount of time maneuvering each joint, they're gonna look pretty flat, just like that. But the joints stay pretty strong. I mean, they'll probably sag a little bit. Over time, but right now they're definitely strong enough to hold themselves up. But give it a little shake and they'll definitely fall down. So let's take these off for now to take a look at the rest of the backpack. Obviously, we have these very large effect parts for the wings. We've got a thruster here in the back. I went to grab the aObing because I actually want to test something on it. Let's see, it looks like it has the same backpack connector. So I'm gonna try to pop this off. As you can see, we have that same rectangular peg. So let's see if this just drops right in. There is a little bit of a gap in the back there, but it does connect, and that looks pretty intense, to be honest. It kind of goes with the color scheme as well. It's like the same, slightly the same gold actually. This gold's a little more green. This one's a little more orange, bronzy, but the white definitely goes with it. Let's carefully pop that back off. And just for good measure, let's see if the aObing backpack fits on the Cao Ren. That one actually sits a little more flush than this on the aObing, and it's definitely not as fancy, but it fits. All right, so now let's pop the wings on the Cao Ren, and we're gonna take a look at it. The kit definitely looks more grand with the large wings on it, and definitely a little fancier than the aObing because the antennas kind of form somewhat of a crown in my opinion. Gives it a more regal appearance. And if you wanted to, you can also take the effect parts off of the wings. They come apart like that. We have these additional vent parts that plug up the holes where the effect parts plug into, right here in the middle of the wing. Then we can fold the wings down just a little bit and pivot them backwards. They can also be moved up and down here. Definitely not as fancy, but again, if you're going for this kind of look, it's available for you. In terms of articulation, everything is about what you would expect. It's pretty much the same as the aObing. Pretty much all of your standard poses will be available for it. Here is the upper limit of the leg, but we can bring the joint down a little bit and have it kick between the side skirt and the front skirt. Here is what the full knee bend will look like. You get a little bit of armor split here in the thigh, a little bit of armor split here at the knee as well. One part of the articulation I feel is a little bit better than the aObing is in the waist. It actually has a pretty significant ab crunch. It can look pretty much straight down. So yeah, this guy doesn't skip core day at the gym. On the back legs, we have these thrusters that can slightly pivot up and down, ever so slightly. I would probably not even notice that. But yeah, all of the articulation spots on the kit are pretty standard, nothing crazy, nothing limiting either, which is good. The biggest standout is going to be in the ab crunch. And here's a basic backpack for the kit as well. Here are all the extra parts that we get with the kit. They definitely optimize the use of the plastic with this kit. Here is an additional joint for one of the wings. Here are 2 extra pieces for the tails. This part, I don't even remember where this goes. I think this goes right here on the back actually. Then we have these 2 pieces which are parts for the stand. The action base is pretty standard. It's like 3 action base 5s put together with this connector on 3 spots on the bottom. And at the top we have an adapter to connect it to the model kit and an extra in the box. To attach it to the model kit is pretty simple. There's a slot here inside the butt and you just plug it in there. The remaining additional pieces we get with the kit are going to be used in the transformation. So these are the same part. It's actually going to be a connector for the action base once we get it fully transformed. Here are the 2 claws, and we have 2 adapter pieces right here. And without further ado, this is probably my least favorite part of the review, just because I'm not too big a fan of transforming kits anymore. Not that this kit has a bad transformation, it's just pretty tedious every time you transform a kit. So I'm only gonna show you once. If you wanna see it again, of course, just rewind the video and rewatch it. But we'll start off by taking off this backpack. And while we're at it, we'll go ahead and add the effect parts back in. Actually, before we do that, we do have to separate these from each other. Then we'll go ahead and add the effect parts. Set these aside for now, and set this aside for now. So I'm gonna have to follow along in the manual just because this is not your standard transformation. I mean, there are elements of it, but you'll see. There's some pretty strange parts. So first off, we're going to take off the 2 arm guards. We can set those aside, we don't need those. We can take off the 2 hands, we also don't need those. Then we're gonna take off the front skirt and the back skirt, and we'll set those aside. And here's a good time to give you a look at what the hip joint looks like. It's pretty similar to what we see in a lot of master grades today, but it does have the option to swing downward like that, if you can tell. But we'll set those both in the standard position, and in traditional transformation fashion, we're going to turn the legs around. Here's where it starts to get weird, so hopefully you can keep up. We're gonna twist the arms up at a 90-degree angle. On the back, we're going to bring the side skirts back and then flip them 180 degrees. Then back to the legs, we're going to turn them 90 degrees inward, like that. So it's gonna keep looking pretty strange until we pretty much get everything done. Here's where it starts to kind of get complicated. We're going to turn the hip joint up just a little bit on each leg like that. Then we're gonna turn the hip joint where it connects to the thigh downward like that. Then we're gonna bend it back 90 degrees. It's tricky because both of the hip joints kind of want to move together naturally, and you sort of have to be able to separate the movements of each. Then we'll go ahead and bend the knees all the way, and these should be high enough to go above the shoulders right here. And you want to make sure you get a complete bend, especially here at the shin, and you'll see why in a moment. This one actually looks like I need to bend it forward a little more. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of small maneuvering that you'll need to do with this. So once you have it looking something like that, we point the feet backwards. That's also a pretty standard transformation move. And at this point, we can attach our additional parts. Actually, here at the arms, we just need to rotate them 180 degrees. Then we can attach the claws. You can angle the shoulders as needed to give a little bit of a bend in the elbow / bird knee. That looks good. And the last part that I forgot to show you guys is the bird head. And that's gonna connect right where the action base normally connects. And that's the majority of the transformation. And it definitely doesn't look done. And that's because it's not done. We still need to connect the remaining armor parts, and I'll show you right now. First, we'll take the base connector I talked about earlier. This will go right here. It also rests perfectly against the abs. There's a little notch cut out to kind of hold it in place there. Next, we're gonna take the back armor, and that's gonna go on the bottom here. And we'll just have the flaps rest on these little pegs here. Then on the back, we're going to put the front skirt armor right there. And that will overlay on the side skirt armor, just like that. And if you haven't noticed, this is the front and back skirt armor on the torso, but it's upside down. So interesting way to incorporate the skirt armor. And there's just a few parts left. It looks like a pretty naked chicken right now, especially with this color scheme. But let's go ahead and give it some wings. Actually, first, this thing is definitely not gonna balance on its own just because of the way the weight distribution is. It's not gonna be able to balance on its own. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the action base and stick it on there for now. It's definitely a little harder to get on the action base because once you apply a little bit of pressure onto the adapter, it wants to pop out, which can be annoying. Another reason why I am not transforming this kit again after this. So to get it in there easily, it's probably better if we just sort of like twist it in, maneuver it just right like that. There we go. Then we can tilt the action base a little bit. Next we have the wings. We have the big wings right here, and we have these adapter pieces for them. So the way these are gonna work are they plug into this hole on the adapter piece. So it looks like that. And that's actually going to plug in on an opening on the knee right here. So that's why you want to make sure this knee bend is completely bent. That way you have enough room to slide that in. And again on this side, All right, so now we've got the wings attached. And as I did that, the base adapter did come loose again. So this thing definitely isn't as sturdy on the stand when it's transformed, but eventually when you find a pose you like, you'll be able to get it to stick. Okay, and now we are almost done with the transformation. So next we're going to take the backpack. We have to take this red gem out. It's kind of hard to take it out by hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a part separator to pop it out, hopefully not scratching the paint. Just have to do small wiggles. Eventually it'll come out. After we do that, we can flip the wings like this, bring them up and bring them back. We'll go ahead and attach the tails to the backpack again. And lastly, we're going to get the shield, take off this connector piece, and we'll pop on this shorter connector piece that comes with the kit and attach it where that red gem was. And it should look like that, kind of like its own little small bird. But once we get that done, all we have to do is pop this onto the backpack connection again, upside down. And we're actually gonna move these side skirt pieces a little bit. I think we want them up like this, and then we can kind of like slide the skirt pieces between the wings. There we go. So in my opinion, from above, this thing looks pretty sick. I don't think we really have many Gundam kits, if any, that transform into anything that looks like an animal. I mean, we have Wing Gundam in bird mode, but that's more so a spaceship still, if anything. I wouldn't really consider it a full-on bird. Well, the real grade TV version did have a pretty convincing bird mode, but this one is definitely a bird. And let me pop it off the stand, hopefully in one piece, that way I can give you guys a better look at the different angles. So here's what it looks like from the front and side-ish. It definitely has a more bird-like anatomy with the wings here, as well as just the shape of the body. It kind of like flows down into a larger back section. I don't know bird anatomy, so I don't know what it's called. The wings are definitely much more flamboyant. They flourish a lot more nicely. The tails still are kind of weird looking when they're just straight out like this. And on the bottom is where we see, you know, the typical transformation things where we still see the head. Nothing really looks like a bird on the bottom, but we're not gonna have it facing that way anyways. And there we go. It's still a pretty majestic looking bird, I would say. Transformation sequence is always gonna be kind of terrible, but I don't blame Motor Nuclear for that. That's definitely something inherent of transforming kits. And I'll hopefully just prop this back on the stand with no issues. There we go. So that's it for the kit. It's definitely a very detailed kit. A lot of areas to panel line. I honestly thought it would look kind of bad without any panel lining done, but I think that was just the pictures I was looking at. They were relatively bad pictures. But much like any master grade Gundam kit, with the right lighting and photo editing, you don't necessarily need panel lining, but it'll definitely help the details pop out a little more. Another thing that I forgot to mention about the kit is that the wings are slightly fluorescent, much more so than the whites of the kit. As you can see, this red area does glow a little bit more, and that'll go for the rest of the effect parts as well. I wouldn't say it fluoresces that much. Like in bright light, it glows a little bit, but definitely not anything that significant. It's hard to find anything bad with this kit. Honestly, everything that I found bad in the Ao Bing was kind of fixed in this kit. There's no small connections that can snap when you're building. The build quality and the articulation is of course top notch. The plastic quality is still very good. If I were to pick what I didn't like about this kit, it would definitely be something with the transformation, especially with the action base adapter not really being sturdy enough to hold it when you're maneuvering it. That's definitely going to be annoying if you pose it a lot in this bird mode. But overall, I would say if you enjoyed the Ao Bing, you should definitely pick up the Cao Ren. In my opinion, it was a more enjoyable kit to build, mostly because you're not building so many segments of the dragon. But not only that, it also comes in a little bit cheaper because it kind of uses a little bit less plastic than the Ao Bing, at least in terms of the runners. I'll probably leave this displayed in the non-bird mode. I feel a little more safe with it on my shelf when it's not kind of like wobbling around. But overall, I will say I really enjoyed building this kit. But if you're interested in purchasing either of these kits, the Bing or the Cao Ren, both of them are available for pre-order and or purchase depending on when you're watching this on Gundamit.com. I'll put a link down below in the description. Once again, thank you Shozi Store and Gundamit for sending me both of these kits to review. If you haven't checked out the Bing review, make sure you check that out on the channel. Even though I bash it a little bit in this review, I still had a lot of fun with this one. Of course, thank you to the Patreons for the channel. Thank you for your support. And if you'd like to become a Patreon yourself, feel free to click the link tree down below in the description and you'll be directed to my Patreon site. Or if you'd like to join our Discord, The Hangar, where there's plenty of people talking about Gunpla and just discussing and helping others with Gunpla, that's also going to be in the link tree link down below. If you want to follow me on Instagram as well, that's going to be same story. It's going to be down there in the description. There is, however, going to be a new link in the description, and that is going to be aMillaGunpla.com. That's going to lead to a merch store where I'm selling 2 pieces of merchandise. You may have seen it in some previous videos, but I'm selling this shirt as well as the same design on this hoodie. It's a merch store powered by Fourth Wall, and I have the prices set to the absolute lowest that Fourth Wall will let me set them. So I'm not really trying to make too much of a profit off of them. They were just people that asked where I got the shirt, and I actually designed it myself, and I want to give the opportunity to those people to purchase it for themselves. So yeah, please check out that merch store if you are interested, or if you want to see some other kind of merch like a hat or a mug or something, I don't know. Just let me know down below in the comments. But that's it for this review. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the Cao Ren by Motor Nuclear. Once again, these are both available at Gundamit and Shozi Store. And I forgot, you can actually put a creator code in like the top part of the website. Just to let them know that I sent you there, you can put the code aMilla, pretty easy to remember. And hopefully it'll convince them enough to keep sending me more kits like this to review. So thanks once again. As usual, have a good rest of your day and start building.